Hey guys, today we're going to be taking just a look at my deck and all the cards in it of Keyella Castle Survivor, or Quella Castle Survivor. It's Logos, Shadows, and Untamed. Here is my little checklist. If you're familiar with it, you can probably just look at this and know what you need to know. There's my QR code, and you know the name, so you can go on the Keyforge app and look at my cards that way if you prefer doing it in that format instead of listening to my annoying voice. All right, so I'm just going to set that aside. I'm just going to go over each one of my cards here. In the Logos, I've got actually not one but two Doc Booktons, a human scientist. It's got a power of 5, and the reap ability is draw a card. Sometimes I get a kick out of reading the flair. I won't go into that for this one anyway, but all right. So then we have remote access, which is an action. You get an amber, of course, when you play it, and it says that you can use an opponent's artifact as if it was yours. We have effervescent principle. Each player loses half their amber, rounding down the loss, and gain 1 chain. This has saved me before in a game. It's a good card. All right, we have anomaly exploiter. It's an item, which is an artifact item, and the action is destroy damaged creature. So that could be very helpful, especially since I'm playing Shadows, which is known to throw little points of damage here and there. Okay, this one gives you an amber. This is an action on your play. Opponent cannot play action cards their next turn. That could be helpful, but you get an amber either way, so you always play that card. Okay, this action is bouncing Deathquake. Destroy an enemy creature and a friendly creature. You may repeat this effect as many times as you like, as long as it's possible to repeat the entire effect. Now, I don't know if there's an errata on this, because in the game there's a hard thing called the rule of 6, where you can't repeat something in effect more than 6 times. But their precedent golden rule says if a card can break the rule, you can keep going. So I'm not saying this is an infinite chain, but I think this would apply to the breaking the rule of 6 because the card says you can. So if I had 10 creatures and my opponent had 10 creatures, I should be able to repeat this effect. So you guys can put down in the comments if you think I'm wrong, but this card does break the rules, and that includes, I believe, the rule of 6. All right. So this action is Dimension Door. It says when you play it, for the remainder of this turn, any amber you would gain from reaping is stolen from your opponent instead. So that is a really nice one. All right, you got some creatures here. We got Dr. Escotera, a cyborg scientist. When you play him, you gain 1 amber for each forged key your opponent has. Power of 4, not bad. I kind of like the picture there of this guy. He's kind of creepy. So we have an action here that everybody's favorite card. I think it's pretty good, but I think it's still situational. You have to kind of set this up to get it to work. And in a lot of my games, sometimes I don't have time. If it's a longer game, I have time to set this up, then it's a good play. But if not, it cannot be. So when you play this action for the remainder of the turn, each time you play another card, draw a card. So I put the other 2 cards, at least in this, that would kind of go with it. So I have the Library of Babel. It's an action, an artifact location, and its action is, of course, if I tap it, I get to draw a card. So if you have a lot of logos set up, or this is the better way, in my opinion, to try to get this deck to work, to really enhance the library access card, is play archive a card. So if you play lab work, you get an amber, and you get to archive a card. And, you know, that could be a logos card for later if you don't think it's good for now. But if you've already played library access, but if you play that earlier in the game, you can't go wrong for when you draw it later. Okay, so we're going to move on to the Untamed. And this, of course, is the Snufflegator. He's a beast creature with a power of 4. He's got Skirmish. And everybody knows that Skirmish is when you decide you're the attacker in a fight, you will not receive any damage in return. Unless stated otherwise. Skirmish again, another Snufflegator. Okay, so now we have a Niffle Ape, which is just a nice creature to get around the pesky shadow people that have a lot of elusive. It says when Niffle Ape is attacking, ignore taunt and elusive. That can be very good, especially if you have cards to power your guy up to beyond the power of 3. So we got a power of 3 creature here, Witch of the Eye. It's a human witch. When you reap with her, you get to return a card from your discard pile to your hand. That is also very nice. We have Flaxia, of course, which is a fairy. Power of 4. When you play her, you gain 2 amber if you control more creatures than your opponent. So this is definitely situational, but for the most time, I've seen that work more often than not. If not, you would just hold on to it until that was applicable. All right, so now we have Kendrith Longshot, a human ranger with elusive and skirmish. So pretty good offensive and defensively. And when you reap, you deal 2 damage to a creature. I wouldn't mind having a deck of just like 5 of these in there. That would be kind of nice to see if something comes up that way. All right, so we have Mimicry, which is a great card, especially mid to late game when your opponent has a nice fat stack of discard piles here. And it says, when you play this card, treat it as a copy of an action card in your opponent's discard pile. So I don't know how many times I have had somebody play this against me where I played some awesome action card that really just devastated my opponent, and then later on, they mimic it right back in my face. So joke on me, I guess. All right, this action from Untamed, save the pack. Destroy each damaged creature, but you gain 1 chain. So I believe that's worked out. That's pretty worth it again. Once again, like I said, if you're playing with the shadows like I am, it has a way to deal a lot of damage. That's a good way to clear the board. Okay, we have Untamed action here called Vigor. When you play it, you heal up to 3 damage from a creature. If you healed 3 damage, gain 1 amber. Not a bad one. Plus, you get an amber for playing it. And of course, you get an amber for playing this Life Web action. When you play it, if your opponent played 3 or more creatures on the previous turn, you get to still 2 amber. And who doesn't like just pure up, just taking from your opponent's identity card amber and putting it on yours? That just makes life good. All right, we got Key Charge, which is an action. So when you play this, you lose 1 amber. If you do, you may forge a key at current cost. So these are great surprises to have when you're in a close race with your opponent. Maybe you both have 2 key forged and they've already called check and you didn't have a way to forge your key and you have no way really to stop them from forging their key, but you have a way to get up to 7 amber. And if you do, when you play this, you'll lose it and that'll bring you to 6. And then of course you can forge a key at the current cost, which is 6. Which is awesome. That's a nice little surprise for people. Maybe not so much a surprise if they're familiar with their identity card. All right, this last action is called Scout. Of course, you gain an amber when you play this. And it says, for the remainder of the turn, up to 2 friendly creatures gain skirmish. Then fight with those creatures 1 at a time. That can be a really nice thing, especially when you have other creatures that have a fight ability that allows you to gain something and survive. All right, now we're moving on to the little nasty shadow people, which everybody seems to love because they like this. We're filled with a world where everybody likes to be the pesky rogue and thinks that they're sneakier than everybody else. Isn't that right, role players of Dungeons and Dragons and Pathfinder? Okay. I can say I'm slightly guilty myself, so I'm not picking on you. I'm just saying that's what our world's turned to. All right. So here, of course, when you play Miasma, you gain an amber, and your opponent skips the Forge a Key step on their next turn. So this is a great delay card while bumping up your amber. The Nerve Blast, you still 1 amber straight up. If you do, still deal 2 damage to a creature. So that is a nice little card there. Like I said, these shadows are just so pesky. All right, you get an amber for playing Pawn Sacrifice. When you play this, sacrifice a friendly creature. If you do, deal 3 damage each to 2 creatures. Get an amber for playing Poison Wave, and this is a card that works well with the other cards that can wipe the board. When you play this, deal 2 damage to each creature. So you're ever playing one of those decks, maybe you're playing against a horseman deck and they've got all 4 horsemen and they're just reaping and fighting and just clearing and you can't do anything. Well, if you have Poison Wave in your hand and to get the damage on them, and then maybe the next turn, you can just wipe the board with those guys. So let's see what we got here. Get the Nexus. This is a creature, power 3, Cyborg Thief, has the ability to be elusive. And when you reap with this creature, use an opponent's artifact as if it was yours. That is very nice. We got Dodger, power 5. When they fights and of course survives, Dodger will let you steal 1 amber from your opponent. All right, we got the Shadow Self, which is kind of like shields basically for its neighbors, I believe. So it's a specter creature, no armor rating, a power of 9. Shadow Self deals no damage when fighting. However, damage dealt to non-specter neighbors is dealt to Shadow Self instead. So the nice thing about this is it protects its neighbors, and it doesn't say it's fighting damage or limited to. So that means if somebody hits a poison wave and they're going to clear out some small creatures, then this guy's going to absorb it all because it just says damage dealt to non-specter neighbors. So if they hit that qualifier, you can protect your creatures around Shadow Self. All right, we got Urchin here. It's an Elf Thief creature with a power rating of 1. It's elusive also, and when you play it, you simply steal an amber. Everybody likes to be the sneaky thief rogue, don't they? All right, so Moon Crusher is this next shadow card, and has a power of 1. It has skirmish and poison, which we know that poison is basically like death touch in Magic. If you deal damage to a creature with this, it will kill the creature no matter how much damage it is. Okay, and when you fight and you survive, which you probably will with skirmish, you get to steal an amber. All right, we have an artifact weapon. This is Subtle Maul. And as an action, you can tap this, or excuse me, exhaust this. Your opponent discards a random card from their hand. And that's kind of nice to do each turn because it can really aggravate your opponent if that's a card they needed. And then this one here, you'll get a amber for playing. It's a Silent Dagger. And this creature that you equip it to, or upgrade, gains Reap, deal 4 damage to a flank creature. So this is a very nice ability. I really like that one. And the last one we have here is something straight from Mount Doom. Well, not exactly. Forged in the... okay, no, just kidding. Okay, is the Ring of Invisibility. You have an amber when you play it, and you can upgrade the character, so that creature gains elusive and skirmish. So if you have a really nice person, a creature that you want to protect defensively and be mean offensively, this is a pretty good upgrade. Well, that's all 36 and 37 cards if you count the identity card of Quella, Castle Survivor. It's a pretty fun deck. It has decent synergy, and I've won equal games with it so far with my buddies, and I will show you more decks in the future. I hope you enjoyed this. Until next time, my friends, keep the dice rolling.